Hello and welcome to Sherpa Network Tutorials. So in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to do basic Gitflow strategy in a Git repository. So this is just a method for how to manage your branches and different releases and whatnot. So yeah, let's dive right in. So we'll start with a little bit of documentation. So if you search for Gitflow, a couple of resources will come up, but I always look at Atlassian's resources. They're pretty good, and I like how clean their diagrams are. So, but lots of other people will show you very similar diagrams, but I use Sourcetree and a lot of their products anyway, so I just like to stick with them. So, um, and there's a couple of different sections that you'll want to read through that covers the different strategies, but we're going to focus real quickly just on the feature branching. So the setup is you have a master and develop branch on the repository, but you never do any develop in either of these two. You only do development on a feature branch. So you can see here the purple line is the develop. So when you're ready to start a new feature, you create a feature branch and then you do development on that, and then you do a merge back into develop. So that keeps it consistent, and so you never make any uh, major changes to your master branch. So that's really basic, and what's nice about this is Sourcetree actually has some really cool quick commands for managing these branching and merging, so it's pretty cool. So I'll go ahead and show you that real quick. So first, I'm gonna come over to GitLab and just grab a URL from a repository that I have, and then we're gonna open Sourcetree, and you just click here on new, and it'll give you a drop down, and we want to clone from URL. So you select that, you paste in the URL, and this is just a HTTPS, and then you select that next line. It will verify that it is a Git repository, and it is. I can't remember when it prompts if you haven't logged in yet to Sourcetree, if it's there or when you're actually getting ready to clone it, but it should pop up a sign-in window, and you'll want to sign in with the credentials that you have permission for on the repository. So it would bring up, and I would want to type in the email and password I used for this GitLab repository. So, and then I usually put all of my projects in a same location of clients. Right here, we'll just do a real quick temp file just so you can see kind of this process. So you create a new folder, and it has to be an empty folder for the Git files to work properly. So you can't copy or you can't clone a repo into a directory that has existing files. So it has to be an empty directory, and you just hit open, and that will set up the the path, and then the name. I usually just leave that as the project name. You hit clone, and then that will download it from the remote repository from GitLab. So that's just copying over the files. And then as soon as that's done, we can launch it. Maybe while that's doing that, there is another section for release branching. So this is the only time you get code back into master. So from your develop, once you have develop in a state where you want to do a release, you will actually create a release branch. So that's this teal color, and then you might update the version of the product there and just do your final testing. And once that's good and finished, you'll hit the merge button, and on Sourcetree it's really cool. It'll automatically merge it to your master branch and tag it, and also merge those changes back into develop. So then at that point in time, unless you had a feature branch that merged in during this phase. Both develop and master should be the same. But that way you don't get code in from a feature branch that hasn't been tested and thoroughly finished and completed. So it's just really powerful. So yeah, here we'll open up this repository real quick. So here, one thing I wanted to show you. So here, if you look, I have a Gitflow button right here. So if you don't see a Gitflow icon, you just right click and you can do customize toolbar. And then from there, you can actually find the Gitflow icon. You can just drag this up to wherever you want in your toolbar. So it's pretty slick. And when you first clone down a repository, it won't have all the branches set up like it needs to be. So if you look here on our remote, we do have develop and master, but our local only has develop. So I want to show you one minor thing that happens if you're not careful. So when you're first initializing the repository, so Sourcetree doesn't know of the local branches. So here it's prompting you to create all of the defaults. And these are good just to leave them how it is. You hit OK. But if you're not careful, you get this error. Cannot create production branch. So it's saying the production branch you chose master does not already exist. You can't create this automatically because the point in history where the production branch starts from is very important. So I'm trying to remember if this message tells you what to do. To resolve this, please create a new branch called master at the point in which you log, which represents the current production state of your system. So not terribly informative, but how to fix that is you can actually just check out the master branch. So you just double click that, it'll ask you what you want to call it, you just leave it the same and check it out. So now we have a local develop and a local master. So now if we hit this Gitflow and try to instantiate it, it'll succeed. So that's just one button you want to keep, just one trick you want to know when you're first setting up a repo if it's already got a develop and master branch on it. So now with develop checked out, let's go ahead and do a quick test. So if you click the Gitflow, it'll prompt you for what kind of branch you want to do. So you click new feature, it'll prompt for a name, we'll just say test, you hit OK. And if you see here, it actually creates a folder that your branch is within. So that just keeps it a little bit organized. So if someone else is also creating a feature, we'll say test 2, both of those branches appear under feature. So that way, and everyone can see these branches as long as you push them up to the remote repository, so people can check out your branch and see what changes you're making, just so that really helps with preventing conflicts. So that's kind of really basic. We'll go ahead and delete this test 2. We'll force delete just to make sure it takes care of that. All right, and then, and I think, if I remember right, show in Finder. So from Sourcetree, you can actually open right to the project. So here we got the temp folder. We'll open the workspace and just view that this is an actual project, and we'll make one basic change. We won't commit it, but I'll show you. So we'll just do a comment here saying test. We save that, come back to our repository so we can see that change. And then we can commit that. This is a test. check that file in. And typically I'll always have push, and you want to commit and push often just so other people can see what you're working on, and in case if you go offline or you leave on vacation, then others can pick up on your branch and finish out anything if you have some work that's left undone. So that's always good to, yeah, just remember to commit and push often. And one other thing to keep in mind is you want to actually merge often as well. So typically whenever I see a feature branch get merged into develop, I'll merge develop back into my feature branch. That way my branch is up to date with develop and I shouldn't have any conflicts once my branch gets merged in. So here we made the change, we added the comment, and then if you click this Gitflow button, it'll actually prompt you, since it knows what branch we have checked out, it'll automatically assume what you want to do with that branch. So here, the recommended option or action is to finish current, and that will just merge our branch back into develop. So if you were a solo developer, you could go ahead and do that, but typically at this point is when you would do a merge request or a pull request back into develop. So and every product is different, but here in GitLab you just go to merge requests. So, and it's actually intelligent enough that we have the test branch checked out. So it actually is showing that we have that, and you can create a merge request and it will automatically set up our stuff. So we want to merge from our feature test branch into develop. So, and this is important, you always want to merge to develop. And then here you would create a title, add a basic description, and then it's always good before you do open a merge request is to look at your changes. So here you could toggle to your changes and see we have one deletion and one addition. So just here we added the one comment, so that's good. And we can just submit the merge request there. So then you would just come back, you would switch over to develop, and then you could start a new feature branch. And then you wait for that test branch to get merged into develop. So yeah, that's the real basic and dirty version of Gitflow with the feature branching. And I'll probably create another video in the future to discuss release branching and hotfix branching. So, but for now, I think that will be it for this video, and I hope you guys find it useful and helpful. And I will include this link to the Atlassian documentation within the description, so you can look up and read up about these different actions, doing hotfix branches and the release branches and whatnot. And it's got the actual examples of how to do that in a command line if you'd like. So just how to do all those. But again, if you use Sourcetree, it handles all of that for you just using this Gitflow button at the top. So, and it's really slick. I've been able to do really well and take care of most issues I ever come across just using this Gitflow. If you guys stick to this flow and structure, this by far, in my experience, has been one of the best ways just to keep your branching organized and consistent. So it's just really nice to have, even if you have your whole team using Sourcetree. And obviously everyone can use different clients for the Git management, but ultimately just following this structure where you do your feature branches and then you only merge that into develop, and just kind of the flow is what's important with the Gitflow structure. So, and yeah, and just helps to really keep you organized and to keep your branches very well, just organized and clean of bugs or conflicts. And the huge benefit is once you have an app in production, you have the ability to release minor hot fixes. This repository isn't a good example just because master has no actual commits to it yet. It just has the one get ignore file. But obviously you would have just a long running history of master with just merges from either a release or a hotfix branch. And then that would be tagged, so then you know what version. If you're having a bug on a specific version of your app, then you can roll back to that tag and create a hotfix specifically off of that version, which is very important once you're in production. And yeah, just following Gitflow helps you with all of those aspects and just keeps you organized and helps you fix bugs when they come up. So yeah, anyway, until next time, keep climbing.